Today we're answering the question, can you still use an old iPhone nowadays? As time goes on, older tech gets more and more obsolete, and more features either start breaking or just stop working completely. You guys remember the old YouTube app that used to be pre-installed on iPhones back in the day? Yeah, well, after Google's departure from Apple in like 2012, the app had shut down and hasn't worked ever since. But what does still work on an old device such as this iPhone 4S right here? I will say that iMessage still works great, provided you have an internet connection, because 3G networking is not going to be your best bet at this point. Your email also will still completely fully work, as it still live updates my iCloud email all the time. You can download some apps, though 99% of them will be outdated and just not supported anymore. Though if you have purchased older apps before, you can go into your purchase section, scroll all the way down, and find the apps that you want to download. Look, I even have a deleted version of Minecraft ready to play here. Would you look at this terrain here? Back in the day when you had a light version of Minecraft that didn't save any of the world if you exited. But if you really need a phone for really texting, calling, and email, then I'd say get at least an iPhone 5. Because that still supports 4G, and 4G is still widely supported. Yeah, so you want to have something like this, an iPhone 5, which most carriers still support LTE, and I don't see any time soon that they're going to discontinue it. You can pop a SIM card in and just use the phone for text messages, emails, phone calls, you name it. As for app support, let's see what apps actually work on iOS 10 still. Here's an example, Minecraft, and although it doesn't have the most recent version, it does have the last compatible version with iOS 10, so we can just download that. Now some older versions of apps that you download may seem like they'll download the latest compatible version, yet that compatible version might as well just not work at all. Yeah, this app is out of date. To continue using, you have to update it. And I'm not sure, I think the latest iOS that needs it is iOS 15. I think Instagram still works though. Well, look at that, Instagram does still work on iOS 10. Though it won't have all the latest features like the notes and other stuff. What is Instagram adding these days? I don't even know. Let's see what version of Minecraft it downloaded. Oh, your device is no longer supported. Yep, that's how outdated we are. 1.16, that's what version we're on. I think that was 2020 as well. But yeah, moral of the story is, if you want a simple phone to still make calls and texts, the iPhone 5 and above is a good call. But to be honest, I would rather have these as a collection piece rather than something to actually use. Because battery life on these phones aren't gonna be the best. If anything, you'll get up to like 2 to 3 hours on a single charge. So make sure you'll have a charging cable nearby. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. The iPhone 6, Apple's most popular iPhone. How does it hold up today? Is iOS 12 still good for app usage today, or is it kind of being left behind in the dust? Now, the iPhone 6 originally shipped with iOS 8, which at the time was when Apple was changing into something that it is now. Steve Jobs had passed over 3 years at that point. Apple wanted to try something new because Androids were getting bigger and bigger as well, and they wanted to catch up. So they made the iPhone 6. I gotta say, the design is pretty okay, but I'm not a fan of how the antenna bands are placed. The phone runs pretty good on iOS 12, it's pretty smooth, I don't see any complaints. Though I will say, as the years go on, their app support is going to be shut down more and more. For example, if you go to Twitter and try to load that, yeah, this app is out of date. So they just kinda left iOS 12 in the dust. I'm pretty sure YouTube still works. I got a comment saying iOS 12 still supports YouTube, and that was correct. Let's watch a video.
I mean, mate, I've had iPhones since the iPhone 4 back in 2010. Mate, that thing lit me up, retina screen, the whole thing. Oh, the golden age of the smartphone, mate.
Okay, yeah, YouTube still completely works on iOS 12. Now, I said before that the iPhone 6 was actually pretty smooth on iOS 12, but that's because it's on iOS 12. And the reason why I didn't get anything higher than that is because the guts are kind of the same as the iPhone 5S. Yeah, they advertised the A8 as being faster than the A7, but that 1GB of RAM is still something that holds it back. If it was given more RAM, it would have had a better chance of being updated more and more. kinda like the iPads. For example, the iPad Mini 4. This has an A8 chip, but it has 2 GB of RAM, and therefore it can run iOS 15. Yeah, the actual performance inside this device was actually not that different from the iPhone 5S, besides the design and the materials. I'm pretty sure this is the thinnest iPhone they've actually ever made, and unfortunately it was thin to the point where it actually bent. Yeah, that was memed on for quite a while. It's a good thing that they fixed it with the 6S. This was made with better materials and was actually a thicker chassis than the 6. In conclusion, although the iPhone 6 was bigger and better wasn't really in performance, rather in design. Even sometimes that wasn't the best part. I want to thank you all for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Well, now we're in the year 2024, and older tech is getting more obsolete every single day, and this device is no exception. So this phone was given to me by a good friend of mine. He wanted me to review it on a video, so that's what I'm going to be doing. This is an iPhone 3G. It was released in 2008, and was discontinued in 2010. Now what can you still do on this device? Well, kinda next to nothing, really. 3G networking has been discontinued since 2022, so that can't even be a thing anymore. You can't use messages, you can't call anybody. I'm sure your email will work fine as long as you have, a valid email address, but I don't have anything signed into this iPhone, so I'm not gonna bother. And that built-in YouTube app has been broken since 2012, I'm pretty sure. But more recently, something else stopped working on iOS, and that's the App Store and iTunes Store for phones under iOS 7. Don't believe me? Here we have 3 iPhones lined up. The 3G, 3GS, and 4. This is running iOS 3, this is running iOS 6, and this is running iOS 7. Let's open the App Store, shall we? Boom. See how 2 of them failed and this one actually succeeded? They don't even get support anymore. Now let's try the iTunes Store. I mean, hey, iOS 7's gonna get discontinued as well sometime soon. The operating system itself is over 10 years old now. But anyways, we're not focused on those phones, we're focused on the 3G. As for web browsing, it's still kinda works. It loads Google, and I'm pretty sure that's all you really need. Let's just type in something, see if that works. Yep, it works, but that's not what I wanted to get. There we go, that's what I wanted. Maybe I should change my username. But if you actually do try to run YouTube, it doesn't really work out that well. Yeah, you can see it's pretty broken. My friend actually used this as the music player in their car for quite a few years before giving it up, and I would actually say that this is a pretty good music player. I mean, let's face it, with every other online feature of this iPhone being shut down, what other use does it have than to be a music player? It's literally just an iPod Touch at this point. What is nice about this is that you can actually jailbreak older iPhones really easily, and that's exactly what I did. This iPhone isn't even fully up to date. It's on a stable version of iOS, an iOS version that actually runs smoothly on this phone. It can get iOS 4, but to be honest, iOS 4 ran horribly on this device, so I downgraded it to iOS 3.1.2. Back in the day when there weren't any over-the-air iPhone updates, this iPhone also doesn't even have a battery percentage toggle that came with the iPhone 3GS. But there are jailbreak tweaks to bring that functionality to this phone. Let's see if we can actually get it. It's loading data for a while. I'm just gonna let it sit. I'll let you do your thing for now. Well, it doesn't want to do that. I can't search. I can't do anything. Okay, well, Cydia's broken on this version of iOS, I think. And the entire thing is kind of glitching out. Stable. Very stable. And yeah, that was a look at the iPhone 3G in 2024. If you guys have enjoyed this video and you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe. because I might even do a video about the iPhone 3GS, maybe even the iPhone 4, though I've already done a lot of videos about the iPhone 4 and 4S. Either way, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome back to another video. So the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are now over 6 years old. But how do they hold up today? Are they still a good choice to buy in 2024? Well, we're going to talk about that. The iPhone 8 and 8 Plus were announced in September of 2017 and were released in the same month. It wasn't one of the most popular iPhone models as it was overshadowed by an iPhone that would be released 2 months after, that being the iPhone 10. Now you may be wondering, what improved in the iPhone 8 from the iPhone 7? Well, first off, the iPhone 8 included wireless charging for the first time on an iPhone. The iPhone 7 didn't have wireless charging because it was aluminum, and it was hard to integrate wireless charging technology into this chassis. And now it's time for the downsides. Now both the front and the back were made with glass, so not only would your screen break, but the back would as well. And we know how expensive replacement backs are for these iPhones, especially nowadays. Now let's talk software. Due to these iPhones being too old to run iOS 17, they're stuck with the latest update of iOS 16. Though I shouldn't say that's a bad thing because iOS 16 and as well as iOS 15 are still getting security updates to this day. So I wouldn't actually worry about your phone being out of date for at least a couple more years. I mean hell, iOS 12 got security updates until January 2023. The software came out in 2018. But with software comes lag and slowdowns, right? Well, yes and no. On the regular 8, you only have 2 GB of RAM, whereas on the 8 Plus, you have 3. The extra gigabyte of RAM really helps in performance and actually helps have a smoother experience. The extra gig of RAM on the 8 Plus really does help a lot. If you're really wanting an iPhone 8 in 2024, I'd say kinda go for the iPhone SE. Yes, Apple still makes iPhones in this exact form factor. The only iPhones they don't make anymore is the Plus model. So if you're really wanting an iPhone with a Plus size that doesn't have the new home bar, notch, whatever you want to call it at this point, the iPhone 8 Plus is still a pretty decent choice. Now sure, it doesn't have iOS 17, but you know, it's still a pretty good device to use. Unlike all the other devices I review in this series, these devices will work on carriers for years and years to come. I've gotten comments saying that the iPhone 6 is the oldest iPhone you can still use today because it has VoLTE and the iPhone 5S and under don't. So these will work for a really long time. Thank you all for watching this video. If you have enjoyed and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hey guys, so I asked in a previous video, are older iPhones still usable today? And it kind of took me a couple videos to realize that you need something around the iPhone 6 if you still want it to be used as like a regular everyday phone with a data plan and everything. Now comes to the question of today's video. Can you still use older Macs today? Well, with some, you can still completely use it. This here is an early 2015 MacBook Pro and it was only dropped 2 years ago. This runs macOS 12 Monterey and it still gets security updates. This is my main editing machine. This is how you're seeing this video right now. Isn't that neat? Some older Macs you can, some others not really. I want to say the year gap in which older Macs are still usable are from 2009 onwards. And while yes, High Sierra is over 6 years old, I still think it's a usable operating system for most people. And while yes, things are leaving support for it now, there's still quite a lot of web applications that still support High Sierra, as that's what you're mainly doing on a computer that old anyways, web browsing. Take this mid-2010 MacBook Pro for an example. This runs macOS High Sierra and it still runs it pretty much just fine. The only downside with this machine is that there's no battery in it, so I can't turn it on unless it's plugged in. That's the thing that's going to be happening with these older MacBooks as they age, is that the battery will start to swell up inside of it, and so you're going to have to take it out. But luckily for you, when you have one of these unibody models, you can just unscrew the bottom case, unscrew the battery, and just boom, take it out like that. Now yes, it won't be a great experience considering it would be a 10-plus-year-old processor, maybe even a spinning mechanical hard drive, and a lower amount of RAM. Unless you already gave your computer new life by installing an SSD and giving it more RAM. Up until the mid-2010s, these things were actually built to last, while being easily upgradable and repairable. Not to mention, before the 2016 MacBooks, the keyboards were actually a dream to type on. The scissor switch mechanism was actually the best in the market out there. No other competitor could beat the MacBook in terms of keyboard and also trackpads. I should also talk about the dreaded 2011 MacBook Pros with the AMD graphics that would eventually fail. Yeah, there were a lot of these machines that would fail due to the faulty AMD graphics. Why were these graphics failing so much? Well, because these MacBooks were getting hot, and the heat that was being pushed on these chips were shorting them out, and making it to the point where they didn't even function anymore. There is a guide on how to disable these graphics chips and running it off the Intel graphics instead, but after a while, it's not gonna be a very good experience. Your motherboard might just completely die. I mean, hell, mine did. Another reason as to why a lot of people use older MacBooks is the wide selection of ports that they came with. Look how many ports are on this machine. You got MagSafe, Ethernet, FireWire, Thunderbolt, 2 USB ports, an SD card slot, and a headphone jack. That's what made these MacBook models so popular. The connectivity was a lot for people, and it was really helpful. Even the later Retina models had pretty good connectivity. Look, they even added HDMI to the MacBooks. These machines were pretty damn good. When 2016 hit, we were hit with that stupid butterfly keyboard. Everyone hated it, and no one had a good experience with that butterfly keyboard.
It is a great keyboard, and I could talk all day about it.
So what should you go with? Well, on the MacBook Pro side, the mid-2009 model only goes to El Capitan, and everything has lost support for that operating system. As for the classic MacBook side, the 2009 model can go all the way up to High Sierra, so you're still somewhat supported. As well as the iMac side, if you have a late 2009, you're pretty much good to go. Do I recommend these for everyday use? No, not really, but they are a nice collection piece, and if you just want to get some little bit of work done, then I would have no problem using this. These machines could even be used as school devices. They're pretty much as cheap as a Chromebook, so you could probably use it as one, while having more support for applications unlike the Chromebooks themselves. Thank you all for watching this video. If you have enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, make sure you leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Phones from the 2010s. The 2010s was pretty much like the golden era of the smartphone. Basically, everyone was trying to improve what they could with it, and we kind of just plateaued. We kind of reached the peak of what we could do with the smartphone. All we can really do is just get a better screen on these ones, maybe add another camera. But this is when the smartphone was really starting to get good. Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone 4 in 2010, and man, was it special. Seeing that it leaked in a Gizmodo article, it was pretty much a really big deal of how much the design has changed from the previous generation. The iPhone 4 was the first phone to have a front-facing camera, which means not only could you take pictures of what you wanted to look at this way, but now you can take pictures of yourself without having to turn your phone around. See, now in the camera app you had a little turn icon. It's shipped with iOS 4.0 and it could be updated to iOS 7.1.2, giving it 4 years of software support. I don't have it connected to Wi-Fi because I don't want the software update to apply, you know? iOS 6 on a CDMA iPhone 4 is pretty dang rare. I do, however, have this. This is a 16GB CDMA iPhone 4, but it's already on iOS 7. This was the last iPhone to need it to be plugged into a computer for you to set it up with iOS 4. Starting with iOS 5, you didn't need a computer to set up your iPhone. What you needed was a valid SIM card. Unfortunately, the iTunes Store and App Store no longer work on phones with iOS 6 and below. They work on iOS 7 and over. The iPhone 4 is actually pretty customizable and has a really fun feature. You want to know what it is? Removable and swappable back plates. Observe. This is a really popular iPhone model. Even the 4S was pretty popular for doing that as well. This is a pretty popular iPhone model to do that with. I've seen blue skins, red skins, yellow skins, so on and so on. And when people would crack their iPhone 4s, especially the white ones, people would color in the cracks so that it would look pretty. So what are my thoughts on the iPhone 4? Well, obviously you can't use it as a main phone. It's 14 years old. Not to mention that 3G networking has been down since 2022. So as long as you're on Wi-Fi, you can text people, FaceTime people, and email people. Just like I said with the iPhone 3G video, it's literally just an iPod Touch. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you give it a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be talking about the iPad mini 4 and if you can still use it in 2024. This iPad was released in September of 2015. Although it was released in 2015, it had last year's A8 chip. However, that didn't really matter because it had 2 GB of RAM. Therefore, it was easily able to be updated far past the iPad mini 3. Now, what's it like using this device nowadays? Well, let me tell you. Depending on what capacity of storage you have will determine whether or not it's really that usable. If you have the 16 GB version, like I do, unfortunately, then it's not really going to be that usable device. Look at the amount of applications I have installed, and look how much storage is left. Storage is pretty much a big issue for devices that were supported with iOS 15, the iPhone 6s, the iPhone SE, the iPad mini 4, the iPad Air 2. I'm pretty sure that the iPad mini 4 with 32 GB or more storage would still be pretty good, because iOS 15 is still getting security updates to this day. Just be sure that you can actually install them. And app support shouldn't be that much different either. I'm sure a lot of applications require iOS 15 as the minimum requirement for most applications. iOS 15, iOS 14, iOS 12, iOS 15, and iOS 15. So yeah, majority of apps still work on iOS 15 and even some below. So what is using the iPad mini 4 in 2024 actually like? Well, considering this has LTE support, this could still work on cellular networks. Now, unlike all the other older devices that I've reviewed on this channel, this device actually has all of its online services still up and active. So what are my opinions on using this device in 2024? As long as you have anything over 16 GB, it's still a pretty decent device today. Still getting security updates, and still has every online service still active, as well as cellular connectivity still being just fine. So can you still use this device? Well, yes, you can. And with that, I think that wraps up this video. So if you have enjoyed and you want to see more, make sure you give a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. This is the iPhone 5S. Released in September of 2013, this was definitely a big change for Apple. This phone brought a few new features that were pretty significant. The first one being that this is the first 64-bit iPhone and probably the first 64-bit phone ever. The second one was it was the first phone to integrate a fingerprint sensor so that you didn't have to enter your password every time. On the previous iPhones, you had to slide and then enter your password. For the 5S, you just click the button and then boom, you're in. You didn't necessarily have to do the slide to unlock feature, you could just lay your thumb on the fingerprint sensor and you would already be in. Now let's talk software. The iPhone 5S launched with iOS 7 and it can be updated all the way to the latest being iOS 12.5.7, I'm pretty sure, which only stopped getting security updates last year. So technically 9 years of software support is really good. Now let's talk app support. The iPhone 5S with iOS 12 will give you support to some applications that don't really have an updated version, or have a fully updated app where the minimum requirement is iOS 12. As you can see, this 5S is not on iOS 12, but instead iOS 10. I'll probably do a video on how I downgraded it to iOS 10, but for now, this is about the iPhone 5S. Now let's talk cameras. How good is the camera? The camera is actually pretty good. Not to mention, it was the first iPhone with slow motion capabilities. Here's an example. No case or screen protector. So the maximum resolution that this thing can actually record is 1080p at 30 FPS. The slow motion camera was 120 frames per second at 720p. Now for the question, can you actually use this phone as a daily driver? And I mean, to be fair, if you're only doing texting and calls, then the 5S is still pretty good, I say. Do I recommend it though? Probably not, due to the fact that the phone is over 10 years old now. Battery life is going to be absolutely atrocious. But I don't know, my opinions could be wrong. Overall, I think the iPhone 5S is actually a really nice upgrade from the iPhone 5, because back in the 2010s, even the slightest of change was still really big for the smartphone. Especially for 64-bit architecture to be added to the iPhone and a fingerprint sensor, that's a pretty big deal. Nowadays, all they add is cameras. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think the iPhone 5S is still a pretty good phone today? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and maybe even subscribe if you're new. And I will see you guys in the next one. The iPod Touch 4th generation. Probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular iPod Touch models of all time. Released in September of 2010, the iPod Touch 4th generation came with a lot of features that have been improved from the last generation. Compared to the previous generation, the 4th generation added a camera for the first time, and also a white color as well as a retina screen. Now, what was the best part of the iPod Touch 4th generation? Well, I would say the higher quality screen made it so much better, as well as the addition of the cameras. Because with the 4th gen iPod Touch, it added FaceTime for the first time on an iPod Touch. Now I want to test the front-facing camera just to see how it is. Hey guys, this is a video test on the iPod Touch 4th generation. Things have definitely improved a lot since then, and definitely looks a lot better nowadays. And now let's test the rear camera. Okay, now we're trying the rear-facing camera. Here's my iPhone 14 Pro recording this video. I don't know how well this looks. I really need to get a new desk. This iPod Touch model came in 4 storage configurations: 8, 16, 32, and 64. The model I have right here is an 8GB model. The original OS that this thing ran was iOS 4.1, and it could be upgraded all the way to iOS 6.1.6. However, there is an unofficial way to put iOS 7.1.2 on this device. I don't know how to do it. Maybe I'll do a video on that. With each releasing iOS update, more and more features were added to the iPod Touch. Features that used to be exclusive to just the iPhones. Looking at the home screens, they're pretty much identical. The only thing that's different is that the phone icon is the FaceTime icon because it didn't have any cellular connectivity. Unfortunately, this iPod Touch model did not have Siri because it was introduced in 2010 and not 2011. This was also the first iPod Touch model to not be replaced after a singular year, as the iPod Touch 5th generation actually came out 2 years later. And with that, I think we're pretty much done here. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you have enjoyed, give it a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments below what your experiences are with this iPod Touch model, or maybe any of the iPod Touch models. And I will see you guys in the next video. So this is the iPhone 6, which was released in September 2014, and is now approaching 10 years old. This is also the best sold smartphone of all time, with 222.4 million units. This is the first time they increased the screen size to a pretty reasonable size, with the regular model being a 4.7-inch device, and the Plus model being a 5.5-inch device. This was announced with iOS 8.0 and could be updated all the way to iOS 12.5.7, I'm pretty sure it is. And unfortunately, it has not gotten a software update since January of 2023, so it is now obsolete. So what's still usable about the iPhone 6 in the year 2024? Well, this device can still be fully functional for calls, texts, emails, and just sort of basic phone tasks. Social media apps are being phased out for iOS 12 as more and more updates are being brought up and leaving older software behind. Instagram is still fully functional, even the notes feature works. Discord also still completely works. By the way, join the server. Twitter, I don't think actually works anymore. I think it says you have to update it. Yeah. And YouTube still completely works on iOS 12.
It's only on the 3rd bit that the microphone up top comes back to haunt us. My hands were sitting slightly on the upper half of the tablet.
Speaking of bends, remember when the iPhone 6 Plus came out, and that very infamous video of the bend test came out? Yeah, well, that didn't stop people from buying this phone, and in fact became the most successful iPhone of all time. Though I will say I'm not really a fan of how the antenna bands are. Now, what should you do with an iPhone 6 in 2024? If you do just want like a simple phone to just answer text messages or answer calls, answer emails, this one is actually pretty good, because this is the first iPhone to have VoLTE support, which means it'll be supported for years and years to come, even with outdated software. And there you have it. There's my video on the iPhone 6 in 2024. So if you have enjoyed this video and you want to see more, give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going over the iPhone 7, which was released in 2016. We're going to be going over the goods, the bads, and if you can still even use this device. Let's start with the good stuff. So the iPhone 7 is sleek, lightweight, feels great in the hand. The 4.7-inch Retina display holds up pretty well. With a resolution of 1334 by 750, this display will be sharp and vibrant for most users. The 12-megapixel rear camera is still pretty decent. It has an f1.8 aperture and optical image stabilization, so it'll still be a pretty decent camera even in low light. Performance-wise, the A10 Fusion was pretty top-notch at the time, and it can still handle most apps and games with no problem. Though of course you have to have it supported by iOS 15, as that is the latest iOS that this device can support. This was also the first iPhone to introduce the stereo speaker system, and I think that's a perfect segue to get to the downsides. The removal of the headphone jack was a pretty big deal. You either used a pair of wireless earbuds or you would have to use the lightning adapter, which wasn't really ideal to everybody. Battery life was also a pretty big issue with this device. It was only a 1960 mAh battery, meaning you might need a charger during your day. And then there's software support. This iPhone hasn't gotten a software update since iOS 15 and hasn't gotten the last 2 updates, which is about to be 3 in the latest WWDC coming in a few days. So, can you still use the iPhone 7 today? I mean, if you're a light user, as like calls, text messages, emails, and stuff like that, then yeah, you're pretty good to go. But if you're into heavy gaming, video editing, or any other hard task for it to do, it probably won't keep up well. For photography, the iPhone 7 camera is okay, though it won't keep up with the iPhones that have night mode. In conclusion, the iPhone 7 is still a solid option if you don't want the latest features or don't need them. It's a small and functional phone, especially if you want a smaller device. But for the top performance and latest features, I think a newer model will be better for you. But what do you think? Is the iPhone 7 still usable in 2024? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Smaznug. Yes, I also injured myself. Now you can call me more like DankPods. So this little doohickey is the Samsung Galaxy S5, which was released in April 2014, making it now 10 years old. I really wanted this phone when I was younger, but I didn't get one because I was in elementary school. Now I know kids nowadays have iPhone 15 Pro Maxes at 5 years old, but in 2014 when I was 9 I had an iPod Touch, and boom, this is it right here. Now this device is pretty special because it was the last one to have the classic like Samsung Galaxy design with a frame like this and a removable back like that. And you can replace the battery, put more storage in it, you can put a SIM card in it. Now one thing Samsung phones are notorious for is implementing all sorts of bloatware and stuff onto it. As you can see, all these Verizon apps, because this is a Verizon phone. At least there were like some apps that people still used, like Kindle. People did use their phones as a little reader, and it is an OLED screen, so the blacks are actually black. I wonder, does YouTube still work on this device? Oh yes, it does. Let's try to watch something. This one. 480p, turn that up, make it 1080. Oh, I don't think it likes 1080. Oh, never mind. Oh, it handles it just fine. One complaint I do have about the Galaxy S5 is that the speaker is on the back, whereas something like the Galaxy S7, it's on the bottom. So I bought this phone off of Amazon like 2 years ago for video and as like a collector's piece, but the more I used it, the more I realized, wow, this thing is really slow nowadays. It also gets really hot easily, which is pretty bad. I'm not really sure what I did to it, but it got really hot. For those of you that want to know the version of Android, let's go into settings, let's go to about this phone. Android version 6.0.1, we could just tap it over and over again. We get Marshmallow. You have to hold down to get to the secret Flappy Bird game. One. No. Alright, let's just check out the camera. This is my recording space. You have my iPhone 14 Pro recording this video right now. Here's my junk PC that still somehow works. Over here we have my cat. Oh, blurry. Here's my cat. Yes. And here's video on the front-facing camera. It's very spaced out, I've noticed. That's pretty good, I guess, if you want to get more people inside your shot. Alright, I think I've talked about all I could talk about with this device. I'm pretty sure a lot of apps still work on the Play Store because I'm pretty sure apps still support like Android 4, which is like over a decade old. That's pretty surprising. If you guys have enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, make sure to leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Another smaznug. So this, my friends, is the Samsung Galaxy S7, which was released sometime in 2016. The same year as the infamous Galaxy Note 7. But because this is not the Note 7, this is a safer version. I can actually hold this with no problems at all. So the Galaxy S7 was basically what the Galaxy S6 was supposed to be, with upgradable storage and water resistance. And you know, every Galaxy has to have a different UI. Although I must say, the one for the S7 looks so much cleaner than the S5, and the one for the S7 actually had a gesture base where you could swipe up for the apps instead of having to click on the button. I don't know if it's just this phone, but there's not as much bloatware as the S5. Oh, never mind. It's all in just different folders. I really do like the design of the S7, it's just so beautiful. The curved glass edges, although it may not be very good durability wise, design wise it is actually really pretty. Let's see what version of Android this one is running. Android version 8. I actually have no idea what this is. What is this? I actually have no idea what this is. Alright, you know the drill. We have to watch a YouTube video on it, just to test, you know? Let's watch one of my videos for once. Turn that volume up and change the quality to 1080p 60. This is my main editing machine. This is how you're seeing this video right now. Isn't that neat? Some older Macs you can. Some others, not really. I don't know if it's just the speaker, or if it's because it's not on full volume. And well, yes, okay, it just wasn't on full volume. I'm sure this phone will still work completely fine if you want to hook it up with a SIM card. As for the Play Store, anything will completely work because there's stuff still on Android 4 that still gets support. In fact, let me just check that. I have my Note 9 here. Yeah, so Discord is Android 7 and up. Twitter is Android 8 and up. Unfortunately, Reddit is Android 9 and up, and Instagram is Android 9 and up. So most social media will kind of work on here. I don't know if Android has an option for you to download older versions. Directly from the Play Store, that is. I know you can like custom ROM of old app on here, but like I don't know how that works, so if you guys know in the comments, let me know. And you know the drill, we gotta test the camera, because why not? Alright, here's a video on the Galaxy S7. This is the rear-facing camera. I'm not sure what the quality is. Here's an iPhone 6 recording this video. And here's my junk PC. And here's video on the front-facing camera. It looks pretty decent. I don't have anything else to really say about it other than it looks kind of clear, at least from what I'm looking at. I should also mention that this is one of the last Samsung phones to have micro USB, because the phone that came a little bit after it, the Note 7, was the first phone with USB-C, and that was kind of a big game changer because USB-C is like everywhere now. And that's all I have to say about the Galaxy S7. If you have enjoyed this video and you want to see more, make sure to leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. So this is the first iPhone I've ever collected back in December of 2014. This is the iPhone 3GS. This used to be my grandfather's. It was used as like a music player after he upgraded to like the iPhone 5, so it was just kind of sitting in a drawer for a few years until I picked it up. So the iPhone 3GS came out in June of 2009 and it got support from iOS 3 to iOS 6. And it actually still performs really well on its latest version. Performance-wise, it is so much better than the previous two generations. And while it kept the design of the iPhone 3G, the internals were upgraded a ton. faster processor, more RAM, better camera, and those speed boosts were enough to give this thing life until iOS 6.1.6. Now what's supported on iOS 6? Well, not much really. Since last year, the iTunes Store and App Store have been shut down for devices under iOS 7, so connectivity wise, there's not going to be a lot you can do. And if you do have older apps on here, make sure they can run, because when I try to launch apps, it just crashes. I'm sure you can jailbreak it and put life back into these devices, but I'm not really sure what the tweaks are for that to happen. I don't know how to make the App Store and iTunes Store work again, if that's even a possible tweak. iMessage and your mail app still does completely work. It'll still update all your mail and messages. Functionality wise, everything else is still completely broken. Weather app, broken. Maps app, broken. Let's do some light web browsing, see what's going on. Let's try to load websites. Your browser's outdated. Yeah, just load. Oh my gosh, is this actually gonna work? Oh my gosh, there I am. Wow, it's really trying to load that, huh? Let's try to watch this. Huh, seems like it's actually loading the video. Oh, it is. Look at that, it's actually playing the YouTube video. Wow, okay, so YouTube on the browser actually worked. I was not expecting that to happen. Now let's talk about cellular connectivity. Because 3G networking has been gone from the US since 2021 or 2022, there is absolutely no way for this to get service. So you're pretty much out of luck. Unless you're in some other country and 3G still works completely fine, then this device is going to be completely offline. Though I will say, at the end of the day, this device should only be like a collector's item because these things are so old now. And with that, I think we're done here. So if you have enjoyed this video and you want to see more, make sure you leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one.